Morning, Bore da, and thank you for the invitation to contribute. So I work for Coed Cadw, the Woodland Trust in Wales, and in my time with Coed Cadw I've been a sort of buyer and manager of woods, a planter of trees, a team manager, Wales director, and I now do policy and sort of campaigning work. And we work with nature-based solutions using trees and woodlands, of course, but as an intimate component of farmlands and habitats and wetland, not in a silo on their own. And lately we've been particularly advocating more agroforestry, so that's trees as part of farming systems. And looking forward, we're going to be focusing more on what trees can do for water. So if I could,
I'll do it for you.
yeah, okay, thanks. Next slide, yeah. So if you take any area of landscape or river system, and it's full of these nature-based processes. Move slide forward. Yeah. And there's an awful lot going on. There's the nitrogen and carbon cycles. There's the water cycle and all the interactions between land and weather and climate. There's the ecosystem processes and the wildlife, the pests, the pollinators. And then you add in the humans and you get a whole new layer of complexity and uncertainty. But as you know, others have said, we've been working with these semi-natural processes for thousands of years. This is seriously old technology. And it is still the foundation of most of farming. So what I think comes out of all this complexity is that there's a lot of different but interacting benefits for lots of different people and user groups and all over the place. And the thing about this level of complexity is it can't be fully predicted or controlled. And I think this is a key point. It's not an exact science, as Gail was saying. But what I think has changed in modern times is the scale at which sort of dominant users have tried to gain control, and by erasing the complexity and replacing it with a sort of artificially simple system. So we see this where a natural forest is cleared and replaced with a monoculture plantation. And I wonder, is this what's now happening to river systems, where their use for waste disposal effectively trumps other purposes? It's the monopolization of purpose. Next slide, please. So where you get these attempts to supplant the natural process, with simplicity, it tends to have the outcomes that I've sort of listed on this slide. So the process of restoration, requires a counter approach. So first, involve more stakeholders in the decision making. And that allows the co-benefits to be at least recognised, and including the non-market and the intangible benefits. And just doing that allows more diversity in activity and in the landscape and in habitats and crops. And also review this dependency on external inputs of money, of fossil fuels, of chemicals, because those are what drive the monopolisation for a single purpose. And spending less on those inputs perhaps means that more value is retained locally, and that reduces risks and increases local sustainability. So I don't think fundamentally that this is a technical challenge. I think, accepting all the difficulties and barriers that Gail has spoken about, we basically know how to at least try and do all this at a technical level. So I think this is more fundamentally about governance. So it's the question of who is allowed a say in how rivers and land is managed, and what is the process of sort of balancing the perfectly legitimate interests of the dominant parties with the interests of all the other stakeholders. And I'm aware here I'm sort of trespassing into areas covered by Professor Santia yesterday, who talked about governance and contracts. Next slide, please. And as she said, we do have in Wales some significant guidance on how to approach this through the Wellbeing Future Generations Act. And in particular, I would highlight there's a requirement arising from the Act that there has to be a balance between the competing aspects of sustainable development rather than prioritise one and marginalise the others. But we still hear an awful lot of language about narrow priorities and targets and about market economics. And that is all designed, it seems to me, to deny responsibility for the wider impacts. So I'm going to finish there and just sort of thank the Archbishop for taking this initiative, because I imagine that the churches in particular do have something important to say about fair governance and taking responsibility. And there's that old poem that sort of develops the phrase, "No man is an island." And I wonder if there's something in that will lead us to a more sort of complete and inclusive approach. So thank you.
Yeah,